This is the Loose Pass Rugby podcast, only on Megafoon Rugby.
Welcome back to the Loose Pass Rugby podcast. I'm wearing my brand new spanking straight off the shelf Bulls shirt. I've got one of my own. You? What do you think? Nice, huh? Check.
It's very nice. It's almost shiny. Oh, sorry, I spoke, so the camera will have come off you. You have to say something so it'll go back on you.
Blah, blah, blah. Look at my nice little... I understand. No, man. I mean, I can't spend a week in Loftus and not walk out of there with some sort of memorabilia. So there we go.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I splurged on it. So I'm all excited and gleeful after my week at the Bulls. And Harry and I just spoke about it tonight. Last night we posted it on Wednesday. But you're a little bit gloomy. As we were speaking, you got a fine, man. Come on. That sucks. And it's not on the way to a rugby game or on the way back. Life's just not fair, is it?
On the way back from a rugby game, desperately trying to find my way back to my hotel room in my car, and temporarily went in a bus lane and got a fine. If you look on the notice, it says 22.40 to 22.40. I was in there for like no time at all.
No tolerance.
Zero tolerance.
Oh,
there's no plea for I've never been here before and it was dark.
Yeah, we were just joking about it in South Africa. We've been trying for 20 years or something stupid to get the Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences Act through. So we also get penalty points, and they just can't get it right. They just keep moving it out and moving it out and moving it out. So anyway, yeah, that's an interesting one. I actually drove the other night. I went looking for some fuel because this place is running out of fuel very quickly, and we had a huge increase, like 50% on diesel. Price increase, believe it or not. So, and I drove over something because it was dark as well. Couldn't see it. Anyway, completely off the topic. I apologize for my strength. But Scholars wasn't a game you went to. Last week you went to, another Scholars game, but this time in Dublin. I mean, that's quite expensive and fully accredited on your own. Nogal. Tell me about that.
Yeah. They couldn't believe it. All the people kept asking me, who sent you? I said, no one, just me. I'm here by myself. Like, which broadcaster are you with? I'm not with a broadcaster. I'm just here by myself. And they couldn't believe it. They couldn't comprehend it. But it's true. I went as a freelance media person to the Aviva Stadium in Dublin to see Leinster play the Scarlets. And I learned a lot of things. I always enjoy going to Dublin. The media experience was... good. I mean, it's the first one I've been to of these where you get a screen on your desk, so you could see the replays and stuff. I've never had that before.
Wow.
All the ones that I've been to before, you just have to sit there. Twickenham didn't have that. Principality Stadium didn't have that.
Next level, next century. That's interesting, but you're lying, man. They weren't all that welcoming. Tell us about your tale of looking for your passes and stuff.
Listen, I don't want to upset anybody. You know, I was very happy for the opportunity and stuff. All I shall say is this: Dublin, you're very nice, and everyone really enjoys going to you. Not everybody is from Dublin, so not everybody knows where everything is. So if someone needs to go to a specific place, please make it explicitly obvious where that place is, like, with at least the postcode, if not the map coordinates, because I didn't know where it was, and I've spoken to lots of people who also didn't know where it was. So,
but you're not talking about the stadium. You're talking about something else, though.
No, you can't miss a stadium. You get off the DART thing, which is like the train, the inner city train, and you can't miss it. It's right in front of you. In fact, this is true. It's so large that I did kind of miss it, that I was like, where is the stadium? I can't see it. Oh. Right, it's that massive building it's literally you step off the train and it's there. So on Lansdowne Road. But no, where you have to pick up your media pass from, most places you turn up to the stadium and you get told a specific door to go to and they hand it out to you when you get there. No, for the Aviva Stadium, there's a place down the road you have to go. And it wasn't the easiest to find. But I did find it, and it all ended happily.
I'm just curious. I mean, they gave you accreditation, so now you pitch up there all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed ready for this huge experience, and they don't really know what you're doing there. I mean, how did that work?
It was okay. I managed to get my way in the end. You know, at least the Irish people are very friendly, so if you ask someone for help, they'll give it to you. So that was basically what happened, and I just had to go around asking people for help until I eventually got in the right place.
Let me tell you something now. This past Saturday at Loftus, at the press conference, we had, well, we didn't know he was coming unexpectedly. Yes, Clayton McMillan walking in the door. I mean, normally most overseas teams don't come to the press conference afterwards. And the Irish media guy is there as well. And he starts talking to us. None of us understood a word he was saying. All we could deduct was he was saying, "Hurry it up, we're in a hurry, we want to get home." Blah blah blah. I mean, I've never heard an accent like that. That is such a strong accent. But clearly, you're much more used to it than we are, I suppose.
Clayton McMillan's a Kiwi.
No,
Surely
no,
it was just
he's
a
the
New
press
Zealand
officer,
accent.
the press officer's accent.
Oh, the press, the press officer. Yes, yes, they will have had quite a thick accent from either
Wow,
Cork or Limerick.
that is quite interesting. And Clayton impressed me. Yeah, that guy knows his rugby. You can clearly see what they saw in him, and the Kiwi accent was unmistakable.
Well, 3 consecutive Super Rugby finals with the Chiefs, didn't win any of them, but he
Sounds
got
like the
them there.
Bulls. Mm.
Mind you, Munster not doing very well at the moment.
Yeah, but you think it's because he's too new? I mean, Harry says they didn't even have a lineout or a scrum coach at the moment.
Yeah, I think chatting to some of the journalists in Leinster, everyone basically said there's more going on than meets the eye down in Munster. So maybe we'll find out.
Ah, that's quite interesting. All right, fine. All right, obviously this weekend coming, there's a couple of games, there's Champions Cup and the likes. One of which is Leinster. Now, you were at Leinster this weekend, like we just said. So, and you did some research last week, and I was showing the Bulls coaches the Leinster graph there, with your little points difference, how much it's plummeted by this year. And they were quite taken aback by it. I mean, everybody thinks about Leinster in these big glowing terms, but when you, like you did, dig down into the details, it's a different picture. Tell me about that.
It was really interesting, really gratifying to go to because I did all the research beforehand on Leinster and stuff and had it written down in my book and, going through all the stats on Opta and the URC website and comparing season on season, and the stats, as we talked about in last week's show that this is Leinster's worst season in the URC era. Now, watching the actual game play out, it was really enjoyable and educational. Firstly, it was a much more enjoyable game than I was expecting. I was expecting Leinster to steamroller the Scarlets, and the Scarlets really gave them a game. And everybody who I spoke to after the game said the Scarlets really should have gotten something from that game. And I probably agree with that. So it was great to watch for a start. It was a mental first half, loads of cards, loads of line breaks and things like that. But a bit like, well, not exactly like when I went to see the Stormers, because when I went to see the Stormers, the game was the opposite of all the stats. So I had to go back and look at what happened in the game and why didn't it match the stats and decode it that way. With Leinster, everything that I saw matched the stats. So it all really worked. And I feel like I really saw in this game both the best and the worst of Leinster. I saw what they do well work really, really well. And I saw what flaws they have be exposed. And the Scarlets, to their credit, were employing a few tactics to expose Leinster's weaknesses. And so it was really insightful. So now I come away from that game really thinking that I have a good understanding of Leinster, of what they're good at, what they're bad at, what they're working on, the direction they're headed, and kind of what I expect from them from the rest of the season.
Well, Toulouse is the elephant in the room in the top 14, I suppose, a bit of Bordeaux. But in the URC terms, it's Leinster. I mean, Leinster's typically the one you have to beat. The Bulls pop up and Glasgow pops up and the Stormers pop up. But Leinster's the one common thing there. It's always there, constant.
Yeah. So
That's
if you think of it like the big three, so you've got Toulouse from the top 14, you've got Crusaders from Super Rugby, and then it's Leinster from the URC. That is the one. And so that's the standard that you have to judge them against. And that's a really big thing that you have to bear in mind with Leinster, is it's all about expectations and the standard that you're setting. Leinster make no secret of the fact that their target every year is to win the Champions Cup. So to win the Champions Cup, you have to be arguably the best club side in the world. Or at least that's, like I said, arguably. So you have to hold them to that standard. So any other URC team wins a game at home against the Scarlets 6-3, you'd say pretty good. Munster would be very happy for that. I dare say the Bulls would take that. Stormers, yeah, perfectly happy. Glasgow. Leinster, you kind of say, well, it wasn't that great. And you do tend to focus on the negatives. And the press conference afterwards, talking to Leo Cullen, the Leinster head coach, it was very much focusing on the negatives. And the people were asking, like, well, are you happy with that performance? Are you happy with where the team's at? And he was basically saying, not really. He said, we're getting back to it. We're growing. But overall, no. He said compared to where he was at the start of the season, where they lost 4 of the first 3. Oh, sorry, that's not math, is it? 3 of the first 4. But he said he's ideally not perfectly happy with where the team is. So that speaks to the expectations that are on this team, which, as you rightly said, is the URC entry to the Big 3.
That's part of my bugbear for this week. The fact that you said, the Leinster is a big team and the big team in the URC, and the Champions Cup is so important and everything else. And I've got a problem with this Champions Cup. I'll be honest. Until we can fairly compete in terms of seasons and everything else, I wouldn't be bothered if we got out of it. South African teams. I mean, like this weekend now, the Bulls have to travel to Glasgow. The Stormers are traveling to Toulon. Now, let's say, for argument's sake, by a hook or by a crook, the Bulls win and Stormers win. They all have to travel back all the way to Cape Town to play each other again. And then the Bulls, I don't know sure about what the Stormers have to. No, they don't. They stay home then. But the Bulls have to go back then to go play Dragons and Scarlets. So to me, if there was any chance that we could realistically reach the final, I mean, there's always a chance, but I mean, it's not a realistic chance. I would just say stuff it, man. So, my Afrikaans word, it's not a word, it's actually a phrase. It's ek's in twee geskeer. I'm torn in two, in twee geskeer. And
that's a hard one.
No, you don't have to repeat it. I'm just telling you, it's in twee is two, twee.
Twee,
yeah. Ge.
Ge.
You've got used to the ge by now, no? And then
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, skeer.
Skeer.
Yeah. En twee geskeer.
To be a geskeer.
Twee, like two, it's just not TWO, it's TWEE. It's all it is. Twee, like twee.
No, I don't follow.
So you spell it the same as twee, like TWEE.
Okay.
And then ga.
Twee geer.
Skeer.
Skeer.
Yeah. Twee geskeer.
Twee.
You got it, man.
Twee geskeer.
Yeah,
this isn't very good podcasting.
No, it doesn't matter. People are waiting for you to gooi the Afrikaans a little bit. The point is that I don't know. I don't like this. I'm in two minds about this, is what I'm getting at.
Most teams do throw it. It's not just a South African
Even at
thing.
this stage, at the knockout stage.
Yeah. English teams threw it last year. Saracens sent a B team to Toulon, got thrashed, got 60 points put on them. Everyone makes a big deal about it when the South African teams do it, but European teams do it all the time.
But why? If it's so important, so glamorous, and so everything, why do they?
Well, not everybody sees it as that anymore. It used to be, but not everybody sees it like that anymore. And most people acknowledge that they can't compete on two fronts. Most people acknowledge that it's really, Toulouse, Leinster, or usually there's another French team. At the moment, it's UBB. It was La Rochelle. It's been too long, but normally it is a bit of a private club. You get to the semi-finals and there's normally an English team in there. Normally an English team gets into it. It was Saracens for a long time. It's not anymore. So whether it's going to be Northampton or Bath, we're, depending on how you look at it, we're lucky this season with Toulouse and UBB meeting the quarterfinals. That I was kind of saying on another podcast, that's kind of the final before the final. Because whoever wins that, I think, is big favourites for the title.
That's what takes the shine of it. Huh? I mean, the way this thing panned out, I know it's a draw, but it's basically top 14 playing top 14, and it's going to be URC versus URC and Prem versus, more or less. There's nothing to it.
It's luck of the draw.
Yeah, I know, but they should make another plan of it. Anyway, I digress. Leinster. Part of the Leinster problem is not just the fact that they're not scoring that many points, but they're also conceding tries. I mean, we talked about it a bit, and Jacques Ninobe was on this week to talk about Argus Neyman's injury. What happened to the Leinster defence?
So it was fascinating to watch, and the way that I would describe the Leinster defence is that it's brilliant until it stops working. So Scarlets are obviously the best team in the world, but according to the league table, we're not that good. So, and it was really interesting. There was a period in the second half, the ball was in play for 2.5 minutes, and it was a really, really high quality passage of play. It really encouraged me as a Scarlets fan. So we had a scrum in their half, and we launched a starter play. We got a break down the left, and we got into their 22. And then we started going through phase play. And we saw the Leinster defence at its best, that kind of shooting out to in, hard, aggressive. I might send you the clip later. I might send you the clip and you might overlay it. Who knows? But it's URC footage.
Do it again.
It's URC footage, so they should be cool with you using it. But it's really worth watching. If you're just a rugby
Yeah. And
nerd,
we're talking about your
yeah, yeah,
animation. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Right.
So the so we get into their 22 and we start going through phase play, and we see the Leinster defense work at its best. And they start shooting out of the line, they start catching us behind the gain line. And in order to not get turned over or whatever it is, our players start forcing offloads and we just go further back and further back and further back. And we lose about 30 meters just from the Leinster defense being that aggressive in those dominant hits and things. The classic Jacques Nunab thing. And it was really, even though it was my team on attack, that I was supporting the Scarlets, I thought, this is great to watch, just something work this well. But then the Scarlets managed to get back on top again. So Leinster didn't turn the ball over. We didn't lose possession. And this is the thing that's said about Leinster is they've gone from 8 turnovers a game last season to 5.6 this season. I don't think they managed even that in this game. And we managed to get back on top. And Joe Hawkins, who was playing at fly half in this game, managed to kind of get back control of it. And he did a cross kick. And this was a tactic that the Scarlets used throughout the game, was cross kicks, short kicks. And it's a classic tactic that teams use to beat rush defenses, is use cross kicks to get to an edge. We've seen that loads of times, and the Scarlets must have done 6 or 7 of them in this game. Now, Leinster mostly covered the Scarlets and recovered and managed to prevent, line breaks or serious damage being done. But I just can't help but wonder if that was Matthew Jalibert kicking to Louis Biel-Biarré, or Tomo Ramos kicking to Ange Capozzo, or Finn Smith kicking to Tommy Freeman. It might be a slightly different outcome. So anyway, the Scarlets managed to get back on top, back on the front foot, and then we make a break on the left again. Tommy Rogers attacks the space. Blair Murray puts a kick in behind. Leinster regather the ball, but then we turn them over. And we get a penalty down on their 5 meters, which we then go on to... I don't know if we score from that one, but anyway, it's a good outcome for the Scarlets. And that ball in play time was 2.5 minutes. And Leinster's, like I said, Leinster's defence worked really, really well for a lot of that, but it didn't force a turnover. And the Scarlets, who, like I said, are a team lower down in the table, managed to get back on top and managed to get to a good outcome from it. So that suggests to me that something's not quite working exactly right. We talk about kind of clicking and cohesion, maybe, but also on that point, if I flick now from talking about Leinster's defence to Leinster's attack, Leinster, throughout the game, tried to launch counterattacks from their own half. The whole game, they tried 8 or 9 of them. Not a single one of them worked. Not a single one of them. They even got really beyond the halfway line without losing the ball. And to be honest, it wasn't Scarlet's great defence that was thwarting these attacks. It was skill errors by the Leinster players. Now, there's one of 2 ways of looking at that. One way of looking at it is these Leinster players are world class and they're not going to make a skill error every single time. And there was one try they got off a stolen line out, which was extremely well taken. There was a couple of fortunate bounces of the ball in there, but they took it very well. Great skills. So you could say that it will come right eventually. Or you could say, why are they trying to play like this? Is this really them playing to their strengths? Again, are they going to get these opportunities against the better teams? And then finally, the thing, because I asked Leo Cullen in his press conference about these kind of issues, and absolutely every question, not only that I asked, but any other journalist in the room asked, brought it back to the Lions tour and basically said that the reason that Leinster was struggling so much was because of the British and Irish Lions tour. And I don't know, it feels like a bit of an easy out. So for anybody who isn't aware, Leinster broke the record for the number of British and Irish Lions from one club last year, 2025. They had 12 originally called up and they had 14 in total because they had 2 more call-ups for injury cover. And they said that, because of the player resting and things and the limit on game times that they do in Ireland, it means that they've not been able to build the team together and stuff. But to me, that just feels like a bit of a convenient excuse, really, at this point, especially when the Lions tour finished at the beginning of August, and now when the game was played at the end of March, I'm still blaming that. Mm-hmm. It was really remarkable to me just how much Leo Cullen made absolutely everything about that and blamed everything on that. Yeah. And that suggests to me that there is something he doesn't. Something's not going to plan in Leinster. That's and I chatted to Pat McCary, who you've had on the show. He was there. He came over and said hi. Shout out Pat if you're watching. That was great to meet him, and it was really a pleasant surprise that he came over and said hi. And he said, yeah, well, Leinster always have to deal with a lot of call-ups and stuff. So why have they dropped off so much this season? And like I said, I just think that the Lions tour is a bit of an easy out, because if you do look at the game time that some of these players have played, some of them have barely played at all. Like Josh van der Fleer did not play a single minute of Test rugby for the British and Irish Lions last year. He's got just over 3 full 80s in the URC this season.
After 14 rounds.
After 14 rounds, yeah.
Plus the championship rounds, Champions Cup rounds.
Yeah. Why does he need to be rested that much? James Ryan played less than a Test match. Why has he had to be rested so much? You know, it doesn't add up when you kind of dig into it.
Well, but that's the one side. The other side of it, the brush defense and the jogging lobber was pretty spectacular for the Springboks. Won a World Cup with 2 of them, actually. So Leinster can sort of copy it, I suppose, and even have the master himself try and teach it to them. Where they're falling short compared to what the Springboks can do with the same defensive system. You said their defense did not lead to turnovers. Does it lead to turnovers? Did it lead to turnovers for the Springboks or not? Or what's the difference? Or is it now outdated? You know, is the jogging lobber defense now so 2023 kind of a thing?
Maybe. You can never stand still. And this Jacques Nuno coach defense at Leinster worked amazingly last year. When we talk about the Stormers defense this year, last year the Leinster were averaging 1.9 tries against per game, which is incredible. And you know, like I said last week, they're getting up to now 3 tries per game this year. They could have conceded 4 to the Scarlets, were it not for a brilliant piece of individual defending by Tommy O'Brien right at the end. So it might be a bit of a case of standing still. Leo Cullen blamed it on kind of the Leinster players going to Ireland, getting a different system, coming back and doing a different system again. No, I don't know if I buy that. And the turnovers for me is the big one. Last year, 8 turnovers. This year, less than 6 per game. That's got to be something to it. And like I said, in that long period of play against the Scarlets, they didn't turn the ball over. They didn't get the ball off us. They didn't force a mistake. That's kind of the thing.
Going back to that remark you made about, you know, coming back from Test rugby, Six Nations was just the other day. And we saw Ireland getting better and better and better as the tournament progressed. But the defensive system is different. There must be something to it. I mean, it's quite a big adjustment. They just get used enough changing the way, playing the way Ireland wants them, then they have to go back to Leinster and play a completely different way. I mean, there's a lot of noise being made about this in Ireland itself, about Jockney Dobber's influence.
Yeah. I just feel like it's a convenient excuse, to be honest. And these guys still spend more time in Leinster camp than they do in Ireland camp, surely. You know, spend more time being coached by Jacques Nuno than they do by the Ireland coaches. Yeah. And the other thing is that Ireland isn't as Leinster heavy as it used to be. Yes, Leinster is still the biggest, most represented province, but a lot of these players weren't getting picked for the match day squads. You know, there's a lot more Ulster players in there this year and stuff. So, I don't know. My whole thing that I've come away thinking from it is that it's a bit of an. The other thing is, Enver, no one else is using this excuse. Like, no one else is resting players and having this much churn as Leinster. No one else is doing this. Glasgow, like I think Syria Tuipulotu has played like double the number of club minutes as Gary Ringrose this season. And Gary Ringrose didn't play a minute for the Lions either in the Test matches, and Syria Tuipulotu's played way more than him. So it's kind of, I feel like they're making their own problems, to be honest. That having looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, I feel like that they are creating their own headaches.
On the subject of the Scarlets, one of the highlights of my visit to the Bulls was I started talking to Werner Krier, who's the Bulls forwards coach, former Bull, former Springbok. And I knew it, but I didn't realize it until he told me. He spent 5 years with the Scarlets. And I asked him, do you know who Ken Owens is? After my famous flub of last week. And he said, yeah, of course I know who Ken Owens is. So that was an interesting one. I sent you the picture as well. You were the champion of the Pro 12, you called him, undefeated champion.
Yeah, reigning champion of the Pro 12. Handed Rassie Erasmus's worst ever defeat, according to Rassie himself.
So he was in that game that you referred to last week, the one that Rossi
Yeah.
lost. Ah,
Yeah, oh yes.
Bernard Krier, can you imagine? So close to home. So I'm gonna try and get him on. No promises. He's famously shy. So we'll see what we can do. I'll do my best. All right. Talking about La Rochelle, you mentioned La Rochelle just now, and La Rochelle is suddenly making some quite big moves here. Salman Murat, who seems to be replacing Will Skelton. And then David Creel, lo and behold, you and I were both expecting him to go to Glasgow. I was completely taken aback by this news on Sunday. I've since confirmed it with the powers that be at the Bulls why it happened. And he's definitely going to La Rochelle. Thoughts on that?
That's a big surprise. It's a great move for him because it'll be decent money. And also Franz Malherbe was linked to them as well earlier in the year. La Rochelle are trying to spend their way out of trouble. They just picked up a load of injuries in their last game. They're having quite a poor season. They're really nowhere in the table. They're playing Newcastle Red Bulls away in the Challenge Cup.
Oh
That is
my
a big
word.
fall from grace for La
Yeah.
Rochelle. A big fall from grace. They need to decide what they're doing with Ronan O'Gara. Are they going to keep him as a head coach or not? But yeah, their recruitment drive is large. They still got Dylan Lades on the book. Their age profile of the squad is the wrong side of 30 very much. They need to drop the age profile down. And I think it's a great move for David Creel. I think he's going to really have fun there. And Salomon Murat, he better get his fitness sorted out because the French do not take kindly for a guy who spends his whole season injured.
Yeah. And turf toe, that was his injury. He stubbed his toe on the field.
Yeah.
on the actual grass, I mean. No, that's interesting. I was wondering why we go for the top 14 rather than another USC team. Top 14 is famously a grind, isn't it? Or would you not play that much?
No, he'll play, especially as being a non-French player who's not a current international either with the Springboks. If he's fit, he'll play most of the time, unless they don't like him, unless he gets there and they decide he's no good. So he will play. Yes, it is a grind, although it's probably my most controversial rugby opinion is I think this whole thing of like, oh, players play too many games thing. I'm not always entirely on board with that. Because I can give you a lot of examples of a lot of players who play a lot of games and don't get injured very often. Whereas I can give you examples such as Leinster players who hardly play ever and still spend their entire lives injured. So I think if you're durable, and I think the French are good at making players durable.
Yeah, the difference in South Africa, in the South African context, is the fact that it's year after year after year after year. It's one thing playing so many games in 1 year and then having a bit of a break, but you just stop with it one, and then the next season's right upon you, or the next tournament, whatever it might be.
Well, the French is August to June this season. That's just the domestic season.
Yeah, no wonder they don't go play proper team, send a proper team to New Zealand. All right, so what do you think? Ronan O'Gara, famous for his temper. Now, seems to be not so much famous anymore for his coaching ability. I'm surprised to hear that he might be on the outside.
No, he keeps getting linked. It's funny because some podcasts keep linking him, like he keeps getting linked with the England job and stuff. Like,
What?
have you seen how it's going in La Rochelle? Clue, not very well. In the last game that La Rochelle played against Bayonne, it broke the record for the number of cards in a top 14 game. There was 3 yellows and a red card in the first half.
All right, that's interesting because we spoke to Guthrie the other day, Guthrie Steenkamp. He was with La Rochelle. Not anymore, but I mean, I was interested to hear why people would go play for La Rochelle. Anyway, that's just an aside. Let's talk about this Champions Cup quickly this weekend, and also the Challenge Cup, the Sharks playing against Connacht. Stormers playing Toulon this weekend. We spoke about Toulon last weekend, not having the greatest season, but the Stormers deciding not to announce their squad, who they're going to be sending overseas, to keep it quiet, keep it a secret. What's the benefit of that? What's the thinking about that, do you think?
It can only be to avoid a backlash for sending a B team, surely. I mean, if Sasha or Damon Willemse walks into an airport, someone's going to recognize them, especially in France. You might have to pay me real money to watch this game because the Stormers' last game against Edinburgh, I turned it off in disgust twice, but put it back on each time. That was awful rugby. But the Toulon have lost 5 in a row, which does not happen to Toulon. And if they lose at home to the Stormers in the Champions Cup, there won't be a stadium to come back to next week.
Is it that bad?
They will go down very, very, very badly indeed. So I'm not expecting a high quality game. I don't particularly want to watch it. If I was the Stormers, though, if we take a Stormers point of view, I would send a B team to this. I would not, because the Stormers aren't going to win the Champions Cup. Sorry, they're just not. And
That's what I'm saying.
and the Stormers have a chance of getting a home semi-final. And I think a home semi-final in the URC, a top 2 place, could be the difference between them winning the league and not. So I would fully focus on the league. Get knocked out of this Champions Cup thing and start making a plan for Glasgow at home. Because if you get Glasgow at home and you beat them, then you're in for a chance of getting top spot. Because Glasgow have got a couple of difficult games coming up. And Glasgow could end up going deep in the Champions Cup, and then they're competing on 2 fronts, which, as we know, they've got limited squad depth. So if I was the Stormers, get rid of the Champions Cup, come back to Cape Town, get a week's recuperation and make a plan for beating Glasgow, and then target finishing the league top, and then you get a home final, and then all bets are off.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, the same goes for the Bulls. Forget about the Champions Cup. Save your players. See how far you can go in the URC. Get as high up as you can. Maybe even secure a home playoff. I mean, they can still get to top 4 if they're lucky, because the Sharks, some teams didn't do as well as they were supposed to do this past weekend. Forget about the Champions Cup, man. Just now you get one of your key players injured again, and then for what? For nothing. I mean, it's nice to win all the time, but you have to be pragmatic sometimes and make the right call. Yeah. Talking of Sasha, a weird little WhatsApp landed in my WhatsApp this morning about Sasha being hotly pursued by Toulouse, and he made everybody spit out their coffee, kind of a thing. That WhatsApp that I got there. Whoa! Tell me about that. I know the story, but just tell us, just for the fun of it.
I posted on Twitter because it's April Fool's Day on the day of recording. It's April 1st, so I posted on Twitter that Toulouse are in negotiations to sign Sasha, which is not true. So I posted it as an April Fool's joke. Do you know, Enver? There's a stereotype about South Africans that you've got no sense of humour. I have to say, there are some people who responded to that who made that stereotype appear true.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
They did not see the funny side of that obviously not true rumor. So, oh well. Oh, I got a bit of interaction anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, I know, but I mean, don't judge us by our social media presence, please. I mean, look at me. I've got a famously funny sense of humor. You know me. I'm known for my comedic wit. That was the other one that I sent you was, of course, the one about Rassie signing up to be England's coach. People got hot under the collar about that as well on this side.
Well, that's gotten like another cycle. That's got like secondary clickbait because then some outlets have started posting like news about Rassie shocks fans and confuses them. Is like the headline and stuff. So, so it's like secondary. There was the original joke, and then it's like gotten that much interaction that it's turned into something else as well. Now people are reporting on the joke. So yeah, well, where there's a buck to be made, I guess.
Listen, that fine that you got in the beginning, you weren't involved in that little 12-ton of Kit Kats disappearing somewhere, were you?
No, I haven't heard anything about the 12 tons of Kit Kats.
I mean, you talk about social media; it's all over the place. There was 12 tons of Kit Kats stolen on the way from Italy to Poland. And all the corporates started responding to say it wasn't us, like McDonald's and KFC and everybody else. No, we weren't involved, kind of a thing. It's quite a thing. You must go look at it. It's very funny, I must be honest. I'm surprised you didn't see it. Anyway, we got sidetracked again a little bit. Let's just talk about the permutations quickly. I want to explain to people how it's going to work. The winner of the game between Bordeaux and Leicester will play the winner of the game between Toulon and the Bristol Bears. And I mean, it's clearly going to be probably Bordeaux versus Toulouse, yeah. I mean, that's another top 14 thing. You mentioned earlier, it's going to probably be a bit of an early hiccup. So that's quite stupid. The winner of the game between the Glasgow Bulls will play the winner of the game between Toulon and the Stormers. We know that as well. If the Bulls win and the Stormers win, we have to have a travel back to Cape Town. We said that, everybody knows that. But then, Leinster versus Edinburgh plays Harlequins versus Sale. What are you expecting there, just briefly?
Leinster are going to beat Edinburgh easily.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you about Sale versus Harlequins. I'm going to say Harlequins because they seem to have a vibe for this tournament. They're doing really badly domestically. But then the winner of that has to go away to Leinster, and neither of those are even laying a finger on Leinster. So
interesting thing.
It doesn't matter, basically.
Sampi Swiega signed for Harlequin. He was famous for being called up by Rassie a year or two ago. I think it was a student still playing the Varsity Cup, but nothing happened to him since played for the Pumas. Now suddenly he's going to Harlequin. It's interesting, huh?
Glasgow signed a guy from the Pumas as well.
Yeah, Ruan van der Merwe, I think his name is. Flanker.
Mm.
From the Currie Cup nogal. Yeah, see, that's Franke's influence as well. But the Harlequins, I mean, for the South Africans, quite a... Okay, Andre Esterhuizen played and everything. All right, so Leinster versus whoever wins between Harlequins, so who cares, right? Then Bath plays Saracens, and the winner plays the winner of the game, which is Saints versus Castres. So once again, pretty much a prem. Who do you think is going to win between Bath and Saracens?
Well, Bath put 60 points on Saracens a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how strong that Saracens team was. It should still be Bath. Saracens are having a really bad season. I think the Scarlets have won more games this season than Saracens have.
Ooh, okay.
Or not far off it anyway, or the same number.
And
so I think Bath were going to win that, especially because it's at home. And then they'll play Northampton. Cast aren't going to beat Northampton away, no chance. So it'll be Bath versus Northampton. And that would actually be quite an interesting game, to be fair, in the quarterfinal.
Those are two good teams. Especially and of course, Brendan Venter is going to take over at Saracens, by the way. You know that now.
Until Andy Farrell takes over in a couple of years.
At Saracens?
That's the rumour. Watch my podcast with Neil Fissler to find out. And
then, of course, the Sharks playing the Challenge Cup against Connacht, a different team under Stuart Lancaster a bit, but also the Sharks making a bit of a comeback on the JP, playing either exceptionally well or exceptionally dour, but not losing that often, although I think back to Loftus and Alice Park, it paints a different picture. What are you expecting of that game?
I expect Connacht to win. I think that they've turned a bit of a corner. They were nowhere at the start of the season. They were awful. And they kind of turned it around. They picked up some really good results lately. So I expect them to do that. However, Connacht are right on the outskirts of making the URC playoffs as well. So maybe they could do with getting out of it. But I don't think that they will. I think that they are going to beat the Sharks. When was the last time the Sharks had a good result in the Northern Hemisphere?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I didn't think of that. That's a good question. Right.
We're going to get Sharks fans telling us about on the 14th of December on 2024, there we had this. All the Sharks fans telling us all the exact facts.
We won the Challenge Cup so-and-so. I'll just remind you of 2007 when you lost the Super 14 title, or Super 12, I can't remember what it was, after the whistle had blown. Never forget that day. Fantastic against the Bulls, of course. Listen, just lastly, you're our inside man in the Wales situation. I see the Wales chairman has now resigned. What does that mean for Welsh rugby?
So, this guy, Richard Collier-Keywood, he's been an absolute disaster from day one. He's supposed to be an independent chairman, and officially he only works 1 day a week. However, he seems to have weaseled his way into absolutely everything. And I think the power behind the scenes and his involvement has been greater than what it should have been for the role that he's been doing. He was facing a vote of no confidence from an emergency general meeting anyway, and I think just to kind of dodge the bullets, they just said he's going to step down in the summer. So, I don't think it's going to change anything because his replacement is appointed by the board, and everything that we're told is that the WRU board is very united at the moment. So nothing's really going to change.
What do you mean it's very united?
So in all the proposals to cut a region and stuff, apparently everybody agrees. Yeah, so it's not going to change. So so goodbye to him, and we'll see who gets replaced. I don't think anything in particular is going to change. It'll be just someone else saying stuff that we don't like.
Which brings me neatly to my next question. If Ospreys now drop out, then there's a space open in the URC, and we were all thinking maybe Georgia, a Black Lion, or maybe a USA team, maybe an English team. Lo and behold, our friend Hugh Griffin brings out a podcast and says, no, it might be a Spanish team. What on earth? Does Spain play rugby?
Well, yes. And that was dropped on me as a surprise. I did a chat with a guy called Carl Dawson, who's lives in Spain, works in Spanish rugby and stuff. And he says that he's heard rumours that talks have been held about getting a Spanish team into the URC. Georgia has been blocked because Georgia's too far away. USA has been blocked because USA is too far away. So that leads us, any English club has been blocked because the RFU won't sanction an English team playing in the URC. So that just leaves us looking for new alternatives. So the Cheetahs is the one that's always there. It's just ready to go whenever we want it, assuming they don't go bust. and then that just leaves an alternative. And Spanish rugby is on the up. They're looking to potentially host a World Cup in 2035. They're obviously Bilbao is hosting
Okay.
the Champions Cup finals and stuff this week. So yeah, I think it would be an interesting option. I don't think that Spanish rugby is ready to play in the URC. I think it's at the high enough level, but I do think that rugby in Spain is a big opportunity because there's a lot of people in Spain with money to
Yeah.
spend on sport.
Yeah, I suppose you think about, growing the game and all kind of new markets and all that, it makes sense. But I mean, it's going to be a bit of a lamb to the slaughter for a bit, at least a couple of years. Cheetahs to me would be a much cleaner solution, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, unless they spend loads of money on it and bring in a load of foreign talent and stuff and things. But
What's the
yes,
use?
I think initially they would get a fair few hidings, especially when they went to Loftus or something.
Imagine. You just lastly on your microphone. Some people say you have to go buy a multi-tool and do some adjustments. How did you fix it?
I've just put it lower. It seems to be behaving since. So it's
Mm.
lower and then the back is touching something. So it seems to be working. And I actually kind of,
I prefer
this
it.
seems to be a better solution as well because it's not casting a shadow over my face.
And it doesn't cut off your face, which is also
No,
good.
I did like it how it was before,
Mm.
but this seems to be okay. So I'm going to stick with this for now.
Mm. The funny thing is, I joked about your employer and the car that I drive, and quite a few people guessed it correctly.
Yeah, I
So,
know.
did you
Mm.
notice? Anyway, I'm joking. Thanks, man. You appreciate it. Always good. I like your cat coming to pop in for a visit there.
Yeah, he's been lurking around for a little while because he wanted to go on my lap, but he doesn't like going on my lap whilst I'm podcasting because he knows I'm going to lift him up and show him on the screen. So he's taking matters into his own hands over there. He normally goes behind me. He normally goes here on this side. He's got a
Mm.
little blanket there.
Oh,
No, he wants the limelight this week.
what's his
So
name?
Thistle,
Thistle. That's an interesting
Thistle.
name. That's a good one.
It was the
Thistle.
name that he had when we got him. He's a rescue. So
Oh, is it? Okay, we also have rescues. We have rescues, and then the other cat that just pitched up here now lives with us. One of those. He just moved in. Anyway, thanks you. It's fun as always. Appreciate it.
okay, mate.
This is the Loose Pass Rugby podcast, only on Megaphone Rugby.